There is an opinion that the United States and Russia are separated by several thousand kilometers. The truth is, they're a lot closer than you might think. In the middle of the Bering Strait are the Diomid Islands. Ratmanov Island is Russian, its brother island, Kruzenshtern Island, belongs to the United States. The distance between them is only about 4 kilometers. Today you will learn why it takes a whole day to overcome them, what the ice curtain is and how the natives live in a changing climate. Eskimos began settling the Diomid Islands more than 3,000 years ago. The honor of discovering these places to the inhabitants of the Old World belongs to the famous Russian traveler Semyon Dezhnev. In 1648, he discovered the strait between Asia and America, later named after Bering. In addition, Dezhnev reported 2 islands located there. One of them was found in 1728 by Vitus Bering's expedition. The modern Russian names, they received already in the early 19th century. In 1867 Alexander II sold Alaska to the Americans because at that time the Russians believed that these lands were of little use and spent a lot of money on their upkeep. And in general, it wouldn't hurt to have some gold. The Russians received a mere penny from the transaction, $7.2 million. For comparison, a single 3-story building in downtown New York City, built in 1872, known as the Tweed Court, cost the New York State Treasury almost twice as much as the whole of Alaska, and Alaska is slightly smaller than Libya, which is the 16th largest country by area. After the sale of Alaska, the state border began to run between the islands of Diomid, but at first these changes did not bother the locals much. The inhabitants of the Bering Strait area have always considered themselves to be one people. Up until 1948, families who lived on different islands without too much trouble rolled around to visit each other. After World War II, relations between the USSR and the United States deteriorated. Because of this, the border was closed. As often happens in such cases because of politics, ordinary people suffered greatly because of politics. The military settled on Ratmanov Island, and the civilian population had to move to Siberia. Naturally, no one in power of those in power were not interested. As a result, the border was nicknamed the Ice Curtain, analogous to the Iron Curtain. A term made popular by Churchill and that marked the beginning of the Cold War. But as the years went by, the so-called Ice Curtain began to gradually melt. On August 7, 1987, American swimmer Lynn Cox, who had previously managed to swim La Manche, the Strait of Magellan, covered the distance from an American island to an island belonging to the Soviet Union. The water temperature at the time of her swim was only 6 degrees. The athlete was accompanied by Alaskans in kayaks. It took her 2 hours to cover the distance. She was congratulated by the presidents of 2 nations, Mikhail Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan. Lynn Cox has often been called a symbol of the end of the Cold War. In 1989, the countries signed an agreement on reciprocal travel between residents of the Bering Strait. The ice curtain didn't finally fall until 2015, when the U.S. complied with all the formalities. Under this agreement, Alaska Native peoples could visit relatives in the Chukchi territory and vice versa. In order to go on a trip, one had to get an invitation from relatives from a designated area. It was allowed to stay for no more than 90 days. It's hard to say how things are in 2021, since there is no mention of this in the media. As mentioned before, the islands of Diomid are separated by a truly ridiculous distance of some 3,750 meters. But if you feel like a time traveler, then traversing them is a great way to do it. The fact is that the islands are separated by an international and are in different time zones. The time difference is 21 hours. And Russia is ahead Americans, which is why Ratmanov Island is sometimes called the Island of Tomorrow and Kruzenshtern Island is the Island of Yesterday. This curious fact became widely known to foreign viewers in March 2021, when a TikTok blogger under the nickname Lebandru posted a video explaining how to get from Russia to the US on foot, but here he lied a little bit. Due to climate change, the ice between the islands isn't as solid as it used to be. He also about the time difference. The publication has gone viral and garnered millions of views. After that, many media outlets wrote about it. It was a real eye-opener for Americans. The unusual feature of the islands gives room for the imagination. For example, you can celebrate your birthday twice a year. Or you could first celebrate the new year on Ratmanov Island and then go back in time and celebrate again on the island of Kruzenshtern. The only pity is that it's not so easy to move between them. Now there is no permanent population on Ratmanov Island, only the military. The first detachment of border guards arrived here in 1941. 6-room wooden house, warehouse and a bathhouse, for them brought by ship from Vladivostok, along with food, clothing and weapons. Life in these parts is harsh. Winter lasts for 9 months. And we have to put up with not only very low temperatures, but also the strongest winds. In addition, 300 days a year the island is enveloped by a thick fog. Because of this, helicopters are rare guests here. They only come once every 2 to 4 months to deliver food and mail. Only contract servicemen serve in the unit. And the basic amenities they have TV, telephone and so on. On the island of Kruzenshtern, or as it is called by the Americans the island of Small Diomid, there is no military. There is only one settlement, which is also called Diomid. When you see this settlement from above, you get the feeling that this is one of the most secluded places on the planet. It is home to a modest-sized community of Eskimos, counting just over 100 people. Today there are about 30 buildings on the island. This includes residential homes built mostly in the 1970s and 1980s. But despite the modest appearance in the settlement has a laundry, medical office located on the top floor of the same building. There is also a school from whose classroom there is a view of the Russian island. There is a library, helipad and satellite antenna for television, telephone, fax and internet access. Store supplies on the island are limited to a small amount of food, drinks, clothing, firearms and ammunition and fuel. Anything that cannot be purchased at the local store must be ordered by mail from Anchorage, which does not arrive very often during the winter. As in many other Alaska native settlements, the importation and sale of alcohol is prohibited. Electricity is provided by diesel generators and water for winter use is taken from a mountain spring, then treated and stored in a huge reservoir. Because of the permafrost, laying pipelines underground is difficult, so residents have to carry the water by hand. Work on the island is mostly limited to the settlement. There is a post office, a school, and a medical office. Despite the high prices for food, the Eskimos are already used to purchased food, not so much dependent on hunting and gathering. Still, some gather the eggs of the guayra, a seabird widely distributed in the northern hemisphere. Hunt walrus and make souvenirs that are popular on the Alaskan mainland. The average annual income on the island is about $25,000, which is not much because of the high prices and dependence of islanders on the food they bring in. So let's say a pack of regular laundry detergent costs $45. In general, life on the island is not only difficult, but also expensive. Recently, the problem of the Eskimos is added by climate change. Every year it gets warmer. Because of this, the traditional way of life is suffering. The islanders, especially the young people, to think about relocating. But despite this, travelers note that the locals seem to be more happier people than many people in big cities.